names on here. So happy to see everybody. And for those of you who are just joining for the first time, I'm Joan, Assistant Dean of Admissions. Probably seen and heard plenty from me. I'm sure you're getting sick of seeing my name come through your email box, but I do try to communicate and be as transparent as possible. So that's why you're getting bogged down a little bit. I have, together with our admissions team and our wonderful staff and colleagues here at Albany Law, put together a wonderful panel of our current student ambassadors for you. Of course, I will be here, but really, I think the primary focus is going to be for our new students to speak to them as your newest classmates. And this is termed an Ask Me Anything, right? So we want to know what it is you want to know. And so we're going to encourage you to sort of ask questions and let us know what you would be sort of looking to hear from us. And I'm going to pass it over. I'm going to stop rambling now and pass over to Nick Wall. And he is going to be our current student ambassador moderator for the day. I'm going to play the supportive role and let you hear from the voices that know it best. So all yours, Nick.
Thanks, Dean and Joan. Yeah, like she said, I'm Nick Wall. I'm going to be a 3L this upcoming year. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I went to a small college up in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, La Crosse. And as far as things that I do at the school, so I'm president of the rugby club. I do a lot of involvement with the Environmental Law Society, and obviously I'm a student ambassador, so I'm sure you'll see me around at all sorts of events. But basically all I'm going to do is just kind of keep the conversation flowing. And then as of right now, I kind of want to introduce all of the other ambassadors we got online. So I'll just kind of call on somebody, introduce what year you are, where you're from, school, and kind of what you do for involvement around the school. So Victoria, why don't you start us off?
I'm Victoria. I am a rising 3L, so this will be my final year of law school. I'm a very non-traditional student. I commute every day. It's about 2 hours total that I commute. I also have a now 5-year-old, so that's been a challenge juggling law school and being a mom. My undergrad was political science, and I actually did that remotely through Arkansas State University. So doing online classes hasn't been that much of a challenge this semester because that's what I had previously done. But being law school, it is very different in the content of what we're doing. So it was a challenge still to figure that out. My goal pretty much for law school is to become a prosecutor when I graduate. Criminal law is why I came to law school, and it hasn't really changed since. So all of my internships have been based on criminal law. And then pretty much all of my classes now that I'm able to elect is all criminal law as well.
Thanks, Victoria. How about Shelly?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shelly. I'm also a rising 3L. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And so I did social work in undergrad, and I went to Oakwood University, which is in Huntsville, Alabama. But now, as you know, I'm at Albany Law School, and I want to pursue a career in entertainment law, specifically dealing with artists and producers and representing them in their contracts. And in terms of what I do on campus, I'm the president of the Black Law Student Society. I'm the executive editor of Notes and Comments for the Albany Law Review. And I also am the student ambassador at the admissions office.
Thanks, Shelly. How about Gianni?
Hi, I'm Gianni. I graduated from SUNY Brockport in 2018. Came right to law school after that. In school at Albany Law, I'm the treasurer of Phi Alpha Delta, which is the academic frat we have at school, and then also the Italian American Law Student Association.
Nice, thanks. Joe?
Hey everybody, so my name's Joe, obviously. I went to St. Joseph's College on Long Island, very small. It was a commuter school. I actually majored in mathematics. I know everybody hates numbers in law school, so I got away from it and did not enjoy teaching and find myself here. So unlike a couple of the others here, I'm not exactly sure which law I'm gonna end up in. I do have happen to find myself loving criminal law. I think Victoria did SBU like I did. I loved it. So I'm probably going that route. And as in terms of what I'm involved with at the school, so I'm the executive director of Moot Court. So I'll be running that whole program this coming year. And then I'm also student ambassador for the school. And I guess the other big one would be the Student Bar Association, just helping run events and all that fun stuff. So, yeah.
All right, I think last up is Matt.
Yeah, hi guys. So I just finished up my my first year at law school. I'm from Vermont, but I went down to Florida for college at Southeastern University. Then I came straight back up here right out of college. I majored in pre-law. I'm kind of with Joe. I'm not totally sure what kind of law I want to practice. I'm kind of leaning towards family right now. But yeah, so I'm involved in a couple clubs around here. I'm a student ambassador, obviously. I'm on the rugby team with Nick and a few others. Go rugby.
All right, cool. Yeah, so basically, like the title says, ask me anything. So we kind of want to open it up to using the chat or anything. If you have a question, just chime up and ask us whatever you got.
You can also feel free, like the crowd is usually muted when we're in a large room like this, just so that there's not as much background noise, but you can turn on your microphone and feel free to jump into the conversation anytime if you feel like you'd rather just speak freely. We would encourage that. If you're someone who'd rather remain a little bit anonymous, you can put in the chat, or you can chat your question directly to Nick or one of the other student ambassadors, and then they'll sort of respond to it and keep you anonymous if you're feeling a little bit shy. But we're going to be all part of the Albany Law family very soon, so we might as well start to get to know each other. I certainly appreciate if people like to hide their video a little bit. It can always be a little rough in the morning, but we're also really happy to start to meet you and get to know you. So if you're comfortable, we'd love to see your smiles as well.
Being the first one's always the toughest.
Right? We got some brave souls, some movement. Here we go in the chat.
All right, so the first question I see is, are there certain syllabus books that you suggest buying rather than renting? Joe, I know that you rented a lot of books, right, in your first year?
Yeah, so it's funny. I started playing it's like a little game almost, because the way I don't want to spend, I'm trying to find the cheapest option, so because it's expensive. So first semester I was like, all right, I'm going to rent most of my books because I felt like that would be cheapest. But what you don't realize is you can resell some of those books if they're going to reuse them. So second semester I like a couple of them I rented, a couple of them I purchased. If it's a subject that you're really interested in, maybe you want to keep it. I doubt you'll go back to it, but you could. But regardless, I think just pay attention to what edition it is. Like if it's the newest edition, they might reuse that book the next semester where you can sell it and hopefully make back at least some of the money you have. Renting is still expensive sometimes. So
I'm going to chime in too. So we actually get memberships to LexisNexis, Westlaw, I think Bloomberg Law as well. But Lexis actually has an entire digital collection of books, and I've actually gotten to get 2 of my textbooks for free, like completely free, because they're on there. So my Trust in Estates right now is available to me online for free through that, which is really great. It lets you highlight sections, you can bookmark sections, so it's just as good as having an actual textbook that you're renting or buying. So keep that in mind too. So there are some, if you get it for free, don't worry about whether you're going to use it in the long run, because honestly, they get updated every 2 years. So if you do save it, it's really going to be outdated in a couple years anyway, so it won't be really worth your money to do it that way.
I see another question actually in the chat here. Is parking difficult? I saw online the more permits are sold than spots, but driving will be much easier from their new apartment. I guess, Victoria, you said you were commuting often, so how's the parking around Albany?
The parking is usually a nightmare, especially because we have the VA next to us. that parking lot is only for people who are there for the VA, so you have to be careful. I know a couple people from other colleges and all around try to park there, and you'll get ticketed. And then street parking itself is really expensive. It runs probably about $20 for a full day. So I actually just do the parking permit through the school, and it's a lot cheaper and it's closer in the long run, so that helps.
I'll chime in as well. Parking like at the school itself is not a problem. So we have two parking lots, the 3L parking lot, and then we have the parking lot for the first year students and second year students. Coming from a SUNY school, parking was, I had to park like a mile away from school, and I got to work out every day going to class. So in comparison, the parking at Albany Law, I find is a blessing, but I've never had a problem finding a parking spot or anything. Like you said, it's our own parking lot, and I've never never seen the parking lot like full or anything. So.
All right. Thanks, Gianni. Next question I have in here is, what are some law school necessities? Shelly, do you think you can come up with some necessities for law school?
Thanks for putting me on the spot, Nick. Law school necessities. I think, of course, a laptop is important, or a notebook if the laptop is not your thing. But personally, I find it easier to take notes and to take exams by typing. Your books, highlighters if that's your thing too. I don't know, optimism is a good necessity too. But I'll pass it out to somebody else who has other. Victoria looks like she has something to say too.
Well, so like I pretty much pack everything, and I put a lot of stuff in my locker when I am there because obviously I'm driving an hour each way. So I have everything from like headphones, so if I need to study and it's loud, I have headphones in, Tylenol, snacks, things like that. Keep them handy. Pretty much anything you would use regularly at home, bring with you because you don't know what's going to happen during the day.
Oh, I have one more. Sorry, I would say pack your lunch. Because, there is a cafeteria, but who wants to spend money every single day on lunch? Like, that adds up. So pack food, too.
Yeah, I can jump in. For the biggest thing I'd say is just a good, reliable computer, like one that does not crash, because you will be screwed over if you have a computer that crashes all the time, because you're going to constantly be using it. That's the biggest thing for me.
And literally all of your exams, for the most part, are on your laptop, so you bring it with you. So you want to make sure it's good to go.
Sorry, Nick, one more thing. Also have an additional or an external place to store your outlines, because I know a few people who it came to finals time and their laptop crashed and they had nothing to study with for finals.
This is an outlier because it might not be for everybody, but I'm huge on schedules. Like, I will not keep everything. I have so much on my plate sometimes that I need the schedule to visualize everything. So that'd be my tip, I guess.
Shelly, can I just ask you to elaborate really quickly for the incoming students what you mean by outlines? What is outlining?
So outlining is pretty much like how we do our notes for class. Pretty much you organize your notes based on topics, and then it's something that you can use to study for finals, because usually your outline covers everything you do from the first day of class up until finals. And it's important to have one that's good and organized because our finals are very comprehensive, meaning that it covers everything that we spoke about. So those are outlines. And you can ask like upperclassmen who have had your professors if they have an outline to use, because a lot of people do pass around outlines. It's hit or miss. Like, some people suggest writing your own, some suggest using someone else's, but it doesn't hurt to at least have a framework to follow, because a lot of people, I know I didn't know how to outline when I first came in. So seeing an example helped too.
Thanks.
Oh, I had a follow-up as well for the gathered mass. What are some necessities for Albany specifically that new students might need?
Yeah, I could chime in there. A nice winter coat. I mean, we've heard some people that are from, Vermont, Florida, he went down to school in Florida, all sorts of stuff, but I actually tend to try to walk most of the days that I go up to school, and I walk like less than a mile. But nice winter coats. Although Albany's not really as cold as, you know, where I grew up in Wisconsin, but we do get dumped on with snow. We definitely get kind of cold. So like I would definitely suggest a nice winter coat for Albany specifically.
That was the best surprise my mom got me.
I guess kind of following up with the lunch thing that Shelly said, somebody asked if I pack my lunch, are there places where we can heat up food? Yeah, in our cafeteria, there's actually a couple of different spots for microwaves. We have a Keurig there. There's a big fridge and freezer. So if you bring, you know, perishable stuff, you can actually store it. And they clean out that every week. So it's upkept and pretty nice.
You can also buy food in the cafeteria if you don't want to bring a lunch on your own.
I'm gonna jump in here just for 1 second and say that because of the COVID crisis and the fact that the fall term opening up might not look exactly as it has in past terms, we aren't 100% certain yet on what food options are going to be available in the building like it used to be, the whole cafeteria. Because of health and safety restrictions, it's possible that we won't be able to have the open live cafeteria, but we are working to have other options. Like we may have food trucks outside. There's going to be a delivery sort of set up and with suggestions for local places that can deliver and a set place that they can deliver to campus and then a place where you can sit and eat that. There may be the shared Albany College of Pharmacy has a larger sort of dining hall cafeteria just across campus, like one building away. And they, I think, are seeking permission to have theirs open. They have, since it's a bigger facility, they might have different regulations, so they may be able to be open. So we're definitely working on options. There are some vending machines that we anticipate will still be available. And then as Nick mentioned, the refrigerators and microwaves so you can bring your own food. So we're definitely still working on that, and we expect that you will have some variety of options, but we can't promise yet that exactly how it's gonna look for August. But in terms of the overall longevity of your time, you can expect that they'll bring that back. I think that there's been no discussion of getting rid of it. It is popular and something that we want to make sure we provide.
Thanks, Dean. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, I saw another question in the chat that says, what is the selection process to be on law review? Shelly, I know that you're in the midst of all of that, so do you want to answer that a little bit?
Sure. So there's two ways to get on law review. The first way to get on law review is by grading on. So each journal, we have Albany Law Review, SciTech, and Government Law Review. So the top 10% of the class automatically can grade on to Albany Law Review. The top, I think 18% grades on to SciTech, and the top 25% will grade on to Government Law Review. The other way is to do the write-on competition, and I would suggest that anybody should do the write-on, even if you anticipate that you'll grade on, because grading on is based off your fall and spring first semester grades, and sometimes the competition starts before you get your grades back. But with that, you pretty much will write like a 4 to 5 page like essay, and then you'll also edit an article like you would if you were a sub-editor, and then the board, all 3 boards will review submissions and they'll pick who they want and send invitations and you'll accept. So that's pretty much the process of it.
Yeah, and kind of going on with law review a little bit. I know that some questions that I've gotten asked before was kind of the workload with law review and kind of mixed with all of your other schoolwork. So can somebody talk about that really quick?
Right, I guess I'll talk about it. So it depends, it varies. So for ALR, we have sub-edits every week. But I know for other journals, it might be every other week or they have a rotating schedule. So it really depends on the journal you're on. But I think it takes, they say you should take a minimum of 10 hours a week to do it. But realistically, some sub-edits have taken me 4 hours, some have taken me 15. So it really depends on the article itself. I think it's pretty manageable with your workload, and a lot of the article editors are very flexible. So if you need an extension, you can always ask for one. They'll give it to you.
Thanks.
Kind of went, I'll talk a little bit about it for a second, but in an opposite direction. So I knew from the start I didn't want to be on any of the journals just because I knew it still is a time requirement. There's certain meetings that you have to mandatorily attend every week. And just the, you know, the overall job of what you do didn't really fit with me being a commuter and a mom and all of that. But I still wanted the opportunity to practice my blue booking skills, to practice editing, to practice my legal writing. So what I actually opted to do instead was be a faculty research assistant, which is really great because I do work for just one professor, which is nice because it's consistent. I know the way he wants things done, what he's looking for, all of that. But it's nice because he's very flexible in the sense of he'll send out an email with, you know, this assignment or that assignment for me to do that week. If I know my workload that week is just crazy and I can't take it on, I can just tell him, you know, can I circle back to this next week or whatever it may be. And that's actually been really flexible to do it that way, but it's still providing me with that opportunity to put on my resume to show that I've done the legal research and writing the same way that you would if you were on a journal. So keep that in mind too, that there are other ways to do those types of work and experience besides a journal, which journals are great. I hope I'm not putting them down because they are wonderful. Just look at what your needs are and what is going to fit better according to that.
Thanks, you guys. I see, Gianni, you actually answered that question in the chat, so we'll move on a little bit here. So we got another one that says, do any of you work on campus? And if so, is it manageable to do like 15 to 20 hours a week in your 2L? I don't work personally. I always kind of felt that I wanted to put as much time as I could into studying and doing those types of things. As far as working 15 to 20 hours a week, I work on campus with the ambassador's office. I don't think I even get close to 15 hours, honestly. But I do, you know, tend to pop in and do work there. I think it is manageable, but it really does kind of depend on how much time that you want to be putting into other things like clubs, like the journals, things like that. Does anybody else really work? Joe, you work a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, I can chime in on this. So like Nick said, so it depends on where you want to work. So if you do work study, I think it's a maximum of, I forget the number, 12 to 20 or something around there. But odds are, like admissions office, I'm getting like 6, which is more than enough right now. And then, but in terms of other work during 2L year, I ended up working for the AG's office with the litigation bureau fall semester. No, that's not right. Spring semester. Yeah. And that was about 15 hours a week. And it's definitely possible. It's sort of just a matter, and this goes back to the whole schedule thing, because you need to rest, but you also need to make sure you get your schoolwork done, and then you definitely add something to your plate. So it's just make sure you're prepared for it. That's all. Like, have a schedule, make sure you're not overdoing it. I've definitely had experience with that. So it's just good to sometimes take a step back and make sure you're not putting too much on your plate.
Thanks, Joe. Another question that I kind of saw in the chat was, how do you get involved in the clinics? I don't actually know if any of the people on here are involved in the clinic, but Dean Mangione, do you know how to really kind of speak to that?
Yeah, happy to speak to a little bit. So generally speaking, those are opportunities that you can start to pursue in your second year study. Depending on which ones you want to do, it might be the second term, the spring of your second year, because there are sometimes prerequisites that you have to take. But then there's sort of an application process that the student affairs team and academic will go through with everybody. And you can sort of petition for which clinics you want to be part of. I haven't seen the most recent application, but my understanding is that you sort of rank, sort of which ones that you want to participate in. And then they will, they may even do interview processes for some of them. And then they'll select however many seats, however many students, they'll make their offers. and they'll fill those seats. If you don't get into the clinic that you chose the first time, you're able to reapply for a future term. And you basically, there are sort of rules for priority and how those are assigned, right? So if it's your last possible term that you're able to do it because you're graduating out, you might get priority. If you're somebody who has, not been able to make it into the seats filled up before you were made in on a prior term, you'll get a higher priority if you reapply, that sort of thing. So there's sort of a whole different factors. So you may not always get into the first clinic that you apply to. You may have to reapply, but most of our students choose to take multiple clinical or experiential learning opportunities. So that's not anything new. And usually you can ultimately get into the one you wanted to by the time that you graduate. Sometimes people even get into them and do twice, right? They sort of stick with something that they really love. But every student is guaranteed opportunities in experiential and clinical lanes. So even if your very first shot doesn't turn into what you thought it was going to be, there is going to be experiential opportunities, and we make really certain that they are all valuable and meaningful and transferable to other things. So I've heard countless students over the years who were pleasantly surprised by landing in an experiential opportunity that they didn't initially sign up for, that really was a turning point for them in either discovering what it is they like to do or don't like to do, or meeting a certain mentor or network. It's all useful information, even if it's not per se where you thought you were going to land. So I encourage everybody to sort of be open-minded, be a sponge, because there really is not any opportunity that you can pursue in law school that you won't get something useful out of, even if it's not where you put, your lifelong career in. So that's a little bit about that.
Thanks, D. Mangione. Another question that I had in here was for 1L students, how long will we be on campus per day on average? That's actually a really good question. Again, we kind of keep saying it, but it really depends on how you best learn and what you really want to get out of being on campus. I'm personally somebody who cannot do work from my home. I procrastinate like it's, my job, honestly. So I have to be somewhere where I'm kind of shut in to be able to actually dig into my work. So I was on campus a lot. I would get there from 8 in the morning and be there until 7, 8 at night, bring my lunch, stuff like that. I know that some people worked a lot better at home, especially people like Victoria who have children, kind of things like that. So some people are there for varying degrees of the day. So if anybody wants to chime in, how long you spent on campus?
Yeah, I can talk. I just finished my 1L year, so I'm pretty fresh off this. I'm kind of the opposite of Nick, actually. I found I worked better in my apartment rather than the library. The library was almost too quiet for me at times. Like I almost need like a little bit of background noise to keep me sane. But if you do find you work great in complete silence, then you're probably going to spend at least 3 hours a day in the library if you want to get your studying done, plus the time that you spend in classes. That's another couple hours, 3-4 hours. So, but if you're like me and you like to go home and or go back to your apartment and do your work, then honestly you could probably just spend your time on campus in classes, maybe go to the gym, grab a bite to eat, then go back and do all your work at home. So it won't be nearly as much time on campus. Like Nick said, though, it really depends on how you best learn.
I can add a little bit that sort of, they're absolutely right. Every student, you'll find what works for you. Some people love to treat it like a job and they come to school in the morning, like, 8 to 5 or 8 to 6, and that's what they expect that they're going to be there. Others, like to break it up and come and go as they please. Certainly where you live can play a role on that. But in terms of just actual classes, the registrar is working really hard on putting together the class schedule this year. Obviously, because of the social distancing requirements and all of the new guidelines, it is a little bit more of a puzzle than typical. We can't just sort of use the standard template. So it is not exactly certain how many hours 1Ls can expect to be on campus. But I think most of your classes will meet either once or twice a week for a couple of hours at a time, 2 to 3 hours at a time, maybe up to 4 hours at a time. There will be breaks. And so classes right now, I believe, will be mostly between the window of 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. Usually they try to get you out by noon on a Friday, and usually you're not going to be there, certainly starting at 9 and ending at 4, but that's the sort of window. So you can just kind of, a pretty standard business day is the expectation at the moment. Again, we reserve the right to sort of expand or change some of that as things progress with the COVID situation. But all of that will be coming out. Again, the dean's plan is to be out by June 1st, and we'll have a lot better idea on what the fall term will look like. And then pretty soon after that, in the first week or so, week or two of July, the registrar should be issuing your first year schedule. All first year students get their first year schedule assigned to them. You do not have to select your classes. It is all mandated foundational first year curriculum. It's the same for every entering student and virtually the same at every 1L and every ABA accredited law school across the country. So you're in good hands.
Yeah, and to follow up on that a little bit, there was a question in the chat about recommended classes for incoming students. Like Dean Mangione said, all of your 1L classes are actually picked for you through the registrar, and we actually assign advisor to each student as well. So once it comes to time for picking classes, when you actually have questions, I have an amazing advisor. She's helped me out tremendously throughout all the times that I've met with her. So, and I know that other people have had similar experiences with their advisors. So we actually do it assign an advisor. So when you have those types of, questions on what classes are best for learning or writing briefs or, experiential ones, those are definitely questions to ask our amazing staff advisors and stuff. We also had a question in the chat kind of specifically for Victoria, but anyone can chime in. It says, I'm commuting to class from over an hour away. Do you find it difficult to manage your road time with your study time? Normally, how long do you spend a night on classwork?
So after my first semester, I kind of, you're trying to figure out how to learn, what you need to do, what to outline, what to read, all that kind of stuff. So the spring semester of my first year, I kind of realized like I was losing 2 hours a day by my commute. And instead, I actually utilized that time by listening to the Barbary and Kaplan videos that covered whatever content it was for the week. So for example, with property, I would listen to their little, I guess, informational videos is what it is. Just kind of explaining like future estates, just anything that Professor Haywood had us assign for that week, I would watch on the videos. And it just kind of helped digest what the textbook was for that week. So I was already familiar with the concepts. I already had an understanding of the law, the applicable cases, and that kind of stuff. So when I did my reading, it actually saved time, and I was actually able to kind of skim and then just focus on the cases themselves. But I stuck with Barbary and Kaplan just because they're geared to prepping you for the bar. So it's going to be the best information because there's a lot on YouTube that you can find out there. But you want to be careful because a lot of it is either very specific to that school or that state, or you don't know what firm it is that's putting it out there. So if you stick to something that is kind of associated with the bar, it's going to keep the information more generic. So it's just helping you get the basics down.
Thanks, Victoria. Kind of shifting gears a little bit here. I kind of want to talk about housing. I know a lot of the incoming class are, probably starting to figure all that out now. So I guess, Matt, if you could speak up to about living in the suites, which are the housing right on campus, to start us off.
Yeah, so I kind of coming into Albany, I didn't know anyone here, so I figured what would be best is to just pick a place to live where it's all student housing, and that's exactly what the suites are. So it's a mix of law students, pharmacy students, some other colleges in the area, a few students live there. And the best part about it is the convenience, because it's right on campus, so it's probably about a 4 or 5 minute walk to get to class. So theoretically, you could roll out of bed 10 minutes before class and get there on time if you really want to do that. I'm not going back there for my 2 year, but that's because I found other friends to live with who are gonna pick a place off campus. But as far as what incoming 1Ls, I would highly recommend. It's a great place where you can meet some people. You can meet other law students there. You're right on campus. You can always just walk over to campus whenever you want. It's a quick walk. It's a great place to get started, especially if you don't know anyone coming into the school.
Yeah, and if people are still looking for spots and roommates and things like that, I still recommend that Facebook page, the incoming class, 2020 Facebook page that's out there. That's actually how Joe and I found each other. So Joe and I are roommates. We found a spot that was relatively close to campus. Just messaged each other off of the Facebook page and started looking for things off of Zillow and Craigslist, things like that, just to find a decent spot around campus. All of the neighborhoods around campus are pretty decent. We live in the Helderberg community, which is down New Scotland a little bit more. And I mean, families everywhere, people walking their dogs. It's kind of beautiful and nice over here. So I think, Shelly, you also live off-campus housing, right?
What you say, Nick?
You live off campus as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, was it difficult finding a spot or?
No, not really. I just use like Zillow and Trulia, I think it is, to find apartments. But the thing is, depending on what you're looking for, you can end up like further away from campus. Like I ended up in Guilderland, which is about a 20 to 24-minute drive per day, one way to get to class. But it wasn't too hard to find the space, I think.
Yeah, and there's varying degrees of what you're looking for housing as well around here. I think the what are they? Park South are super nicely furnished, brand new apartments that are all ranging from $1,000 up. But you can find some smaller apartment houses even in the range of like $400, $500 a month. So there's all sorts of stuff around campus for housing. I guess just switching gears a little bit, I saw another question in the chat. Were you all able to find internships this summer given possible employment restrictions from COVID? I can speak to that a little bit. I was starting to apply for a lot of internships in the fall and early spring semesters. I had a couple of interviews, on-campus interviews, and then boom, the COVID shutdown hit and they put a hiring freeze across everything. But one thing that I always will speak to is how great the alumni connection is with the law school. So I play rugby. I kind of talked about that a little bit. I was actually able to talk to one of the former rugby players out of an alumni of Albany Law who was able to offer me up an internship in his office at the AG's office. So I kind of was able to interview over the phone and talk to the people in charge of the office and was able to get something during that. So I was a lucky one. I know plenty of people weren't able to find things, but if somebody else could kind of talk to their experience, that'd be great.
I can, or I see Matt's about to talk. It doesn't matter.
You got this, Joe.
All right, you go next. All right, so following off of what Nick said, like obviously COVID made it much more difficult for people. I get on the internship process very early, so I did get lucky to get an internship, and I was very fortunate that they didn't cancel it. They did switch it from a in-person internship to a remote research position, which is probably half the work, but it's still something, I guess. I think what I'd say is, so the Career Center is huge. I think going to Albany is a huge advantage in this time because really the professors are great, and I'm not really speaking for myself when I say this, but like I have a couple of friends who struggled to get internships this summer because of COVID, and their professors were like, I'll take on a couple of extra research assistants for the summer, and So now they're doing research in the drone law for Professor Haverly. And like, it's just, so your professors will definitely work with you. Like Nick said, your alumni will work with you. So it was a tougher time, but I don't expect it to stay this way forever. Maybe just for the next couple semesters, if that.
Yeah, so I consider myself one of the lucky ones along with Joe. I was almost certain my internship was going to get canceled because of COVID, but the lawyer who hired me, he was very accommodating, and just like Joe, it's all remote, which isn't ideal, obviously, because it's probably about half the work or less than half the work that you normally do, and it's not the same experience. But that being said, it's a lot of legal research, which you do need to know how to do eventually. And so it's very helpful in that regard. And I also know a lot of people whose internships got canceled because of this. So I've honestly, like, if for students who found anything this semester, they were, like myself, they were very fortunate to do so.
Yeah, I think kind of speaking to what Joe said is I also jump on it right away. I'm trying to get things set for what's coming next, partly because I need to make sure I have childcare to accommodate it. So I actually had already had a summer internship back in January set for the summer. Unfortunately, because it's criminal law working at a district attorney's office and it's in a unit that is very extra sensitive, because everything you do is sensitive. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to disclose any information you shouldn't be disclosing. But particularly when it comes to SVU, because of the type of crimes that are being committed and the victims themselves. So that was one of the challenges for me, which right now it's been put on hold. I mean, I have a position there for whenever I want it, when things actually open back up. But because they couldn't obviously send that kind of information over to me via email because it's unsecured, that pretty much eliminated my ability to do that kind of work. They do have an appeals unit. I was offered to do some hours with that. I opted not to, just because I've already done work in that, and I didn't want to just do it just for the sake of doing it. I've had a number of internships and employment positions already that I feel like my resume is good enough that I can skip out this summer, because I want to make sure that the time that I'm spending is doing what I want to do and it's going to benefit me. I mean, working in appeals is going to benefit you no matter what because you get practice, but I wanted to forego that and just focus on summer classes and getting some of those done because we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. And then also I'm still able to do that same kind of legal research writing for my professor this summer anyway. So it just, you kind of look at all of it and don't feel like you have to do an internship just because you can do it. Because sometimes it doesn't always mean that it's the most beneficial to you.
Yeah, following up on that too a little bit, I know that there was a handful of students that were in the 1L class that, weren't able to find something due to the COVID or just, things being shut down, who opted to take more of the summer classes. And I think the school worked really, really well with the students and everybody to kind of offer more of those, online classes to kind of help people, during the shutdown and over the summer. That weren't able to find any types of internships. I saw that there was a follow-up to it. So how important are internships? Victoria kind of talked about that a little bit, where, you don't always want to do it just because it's like, what they recommend. But I will say, every time that I went into the Career Center, they always said, after your first year, do an internship, do something legal. If you can find something that pays you, the best case scenario, but a lot of after your first year, they're not expecting you to know a whole ton, so it'll be like mostly unpaid internships, fellowships, things like that. But I would definitely recommend doing something legal related if you can after your first year. I wouldn't necessarily call it irresponsible, but it's definitely a recommended thing.
Yeah, can I follow up off that quickly? So this is not like, I do have a little different opinion. It's not a bad thing. It's just I am a big believer in building the resume the best you can. It's like just one of those things where I'm like constantly worried about it. So Okay, so they say that like your first year summer, that internship's definitely not as important as your second year summer, but I do think it's a good start to just help you get to where you want to be your second summer. So like my first summer, I worked for a judge, and I have no interest in being a clerk. It's just not what I want to do. But I was like, how am I going to deny this? It's just one of those things where if I think what I'm trying to say is if it's something that you're completely not interested in and and you don't see how it would help you in the future, like, then yeah, don't take it. It's not worth it. But I do think that if you think it'll help your resume and stand out in some way compared to others, then I think you should jump on it. Because like I said, being a clerk is not something I want to do, but it was really cool experience. And just being able to talk about that gives me a little something fun in an interview, I guess.
I'm going to jump off what Joe said too. I was actually fortunate enough to meet an appellate judge during the summer right before I started law school. And we just kind of got talking about the law, and I told him I was going to be starting at Albany Law that fall. And he was an alumni there and was incredibly excited to have just randomly met me on 4th of July and actually offered me an internship right then and there for the fall. So I was actually able to do a judicial internship my very first semester. I'm sorry, Dean Mangione. I know we're not technically supposed to do that, but I made sure it was within the hours that we're permitted to work. And it was great. Like Joe said, it gave like so yeah, I have no plans whatsoever as being either a clerk or a judge or anything like that, but it was really good because it allowed me to see, especially at the appellate level, you're kind of looking back down at the record, and because I want to do criminal law, it was a good way to see some of those criminal cases from trial court coming up to the appellate division, and you get to see the process, what they think is a good attorney and a bad attorney, and things that stick out to them in the appellate briefs. And it was also really helpful because I knew I wanted to do Gabrielli. So it was great to have that experience and seeing how briefs are done, how oral argument is on the appellate level. And it helped me with those kind of litigating skills that you'll need no matter what.
Sorry.
What is Gabrielli?
Oh yeah, so Gabrielli is the appellate advocacy competition that the school has. You're eligible in your second year, so it's not open to first or third years, it's just your second year. But it's a good way just to practice your oral argument skills, especially if you want to litigate. It's a good opportunity. You kind of work out the kinks and get the feedback you need to as a student where it's not impacting any kind of clients. But then it also helps you work on appellate briefs as well. So learning what the law is that's applied to that issue, having to research it, find it yourself, and then craft your argument based on what that issue is. So it's pretty much exactly what you're going to do as an attorney, but you just get to do it as a student, and it's a lot of fun.
I can just mention one more thing about the internships. So especially your 1L, after your 1L summer, Nick kind of mentioned this, but not very many of them are going to be paid. I don't know the exact percentage, but most of them are not going to be paid. That being said, the school does offer some grants for the summer for people who are doing those unpaid internships. I know I got a little bit of a grant this summer for the work I'm doing at a legal aid office remotely. So just it's okay to find an internship that doesn't pay you, even though it'd be nice to be paid, but you can always find, the school is also very good about giving you at least something to help you out.
If I could tie together a couple of loose threads for people based on this, has been a really good conversation on sort of experiential opportunities in general and sort of the timeline and when to take advantage of them, how to build a resume, all of that. We talked a little bit about COVID and how it has impacted those opportunities. And I just want to say, you know, our current students have been such amazing partners with our alumni and their, you know, sort of practitioners, supervisors, and our faculty in navigating this sort of sudden emergency and this sudden crisis. But everybody in the legal profession and at Albany Law School and in our extended network and family has been learning at an alarming rate and adjusting and pivoting. And so there have been opportunities that have grown out of the, you know, the sort of the crisis. So while some of the experiences might not have been what they initially were anticipated, we're finding new doors are opening and their students are able to be meeting the community where they need it, right? And so there's family law opportunities. There are all these new, sort of CARES Act and all this new sort of statutory work and emergency regulations. There's separation of powers. There's people from the quarantine and being all locked up in their homes. There's disparate impact of some of these things. There's all of the things that we're hearing about, right, in our communities. These are opportunities for our students to get engaged and to sort of be part of rebuilding a community and a legal justice system that can handle remote work, that can handle virtual opportunities, that can handle what if the next sort of crisis comes, right? Regardless of what that looks like, we cannot be stuck and rigid in the old program that we have. And I think it's a really amazing opportunity for everybody to be working on that. So to any of you who are feeling anxious about whether or not it's okay to start law school now, I'm here to tell you that the opportunities are sort of growing and blossoming at a really amazing rate. Our faculty and our practitioners, our alumni, our judges, our courts, everyone is working really fast and they need the student support as much as ever. So I don't think that you're going to have to feel a crunch on any of that. You may have to be open, right, and reimagine what the traditional thing was going to be. But like I said at the beginning, I encourage you to have that mindset for all things one all year. And then the other thing I just wanted to say quickly was to touch on that advising factor, whether it's your upper class advisors, these student alumni that you see, our alumni network, our career services staff, your faculty advisors, everybody is here to advise you on your path and on what's going to work for you. So that it's not a one size fits all, it's not a cookie cutter track. So please be talking with all of your mentors and advisors about what your goals are, what your interests are. If you don't know yet what they are, they can help you narrow them down. But if you do know what they are, be sure that you're being vocal about that, because then they can help best help you craft a path and a resume that's going to get you where you're trying to go. So there isn't one right answer. You don't have to do it the way everyone else did it, but you do need to take advantage of the people that are there and let them know what it is you're talking about, what it is you're interested in or that you need. And then they'll help you find the right timeline and the right opportunities. As long as you're doing something towards moving yourself forward, then there's no right or wrong answer about which piece you're putting in place where. I'm done for now. Go ahead, Nick.
Thanks, Dean Mangione. One thing that I got kind of sent to me privately that I think that's worth kind of following up what Dean Mangione said was, so she talked about how the faculty, staff, alumni, everybody is really like adjusting quickly to the online difference due to the quarantine and everything. And I can speak a little bit personally that we're all transitioning. I'd never really thought about doing an online class in my entire life, let alone a law school online class. And Gianni and I were actually talking about this pretty recently, so I was going to kind of open it up to Gianni about like what the transitioning to online learning and how that was for you and stuff as well.
Yeah, so like Nick said, I had never wanted to do an online class. I didn't like doing them at undergrad, and I couldn't imagine doing them at law school. I'm just not a computer guy. Like I handwrite all of my exams. Yeah, most of your exams, like I think all of them, like you can type up your answers, but more often than not, I'm like the only guy in class who's handwriting his exam. But so the transition to going to online at first, it scared me a little, and then I got used to it. The professors are really there for you. They help you out a lot. It was also helpful. I'm not sure if they're going to do this in the fall again, but they give you the class recording so you could go back and if you missed something or if you had a technical problem, you could go back and just re-catch up. And like I said, it actually ended up like this semester I did better than some of my semesters in person. So even though it's not for me an ideal situation to be online, I think it's definitely feasible not only to learn, but to thrive while doing it. So.
Thanks, Gianni. I know that we're running up close to the 11:30 mark for kind of shutting things down. But I did want to kind of go through and stealing Ben's thunder a little bit on the lightning round. And I'm just going to kind of go to each one of the ambassadors that we have on here and just, if you could just speak to any helpful thoughts or advice that you have for people coming into this 1L class. So I'll start with Joe.
I was hoping to be last. All right, so I think I said my big thing is I think don't be afraid to push yourself to get to where you want to be. Like I said, I think resume is a big thing, and I do think being involved is one, obviously not too involved, but I think being involved is something super helpful. And I also, we spoke about law review and didn't get the chance to talk about moot court. I think moot court's another great opportunity, and feel free to email me if you have any questions about it.
All right, how about Victoria?
Yeah, just kind of what Joe says, like, don't be afraid to push your limits and kind of go outside of your comfort zone. There's a lot of different clubs and committees that I've been on that I wouldn't have particularly wanted to be on, but I just wanted the experience and just to see it and do it. But also keeping in mind of knowing your limits and how much time you do have. You want to make sure that even though you're kind of networking, meeting other people, helping the school out in different ways, just making sure that your classes come first and foremost. I know it's really easy to get, like, if you want to do this, you want to do law review, you want to be on this club, and you want to participate in this competition. And while there's value in everything that we have, we wouldn't have it if there wasn't value in it. Just knowing that just because you can do it doesn't mean you have to do it. And if you choose not to do it, just make sure you're talking to everyone else about where you're at with it, because I know I did that a lot with my professors and saying, I would like to be able to do this, but I'm worried about, not having enough time or overexerting myself. And it really just kind of helps put it all into perspective for me and help me kind of make the decisions I needed to be successful in law school.
Thanks, Victoria. How about Matt?
Well, I was going to say try new things, but I think that kind of got covered already. I guess other than that, I would say just relax, like take a step back when you need to. Law school is tough. It's a lot of work, but it's very doable. So just take some time for yourself when you need it, space out your schedule, and just don't stress yourself out too much about it. You guys can do it.
Gianni?
Yeah, so I would say figure out how you study the best. A lot of times in undergrad, people don't study, and you have to study in law school. So the sooner you figure out your study plan, the better.
Thanks, Gianni. Shelly?
I would say most importantly, like, know that you belong here and you deserve to be here. I think a lot of us, I can speak for a lot of us, like 1L year is a huge transition. It's very challenging. And a lot of times you question like, oh my God, why did I choose to go to law school? Or man, this person might be doing better than me. No, like you weren't selected here by chance. So just know that you belong here. You're not just a number and you can do it.
And then I guess I'll kind of throw something together for wrapping it up. For me, my dad said the saying forever ago, and I think that it really applies more now than ever with law school, is you got to sharpen the knife to keep cutting. And kind of what he meant by that was sometimes you got to be able to mix in fun, hanging out with your friends, doing things, going for hikes, work into your actual schedule written out like Joe was talking about, an hour to work out or something like that, and not feeling bad about it. So everybody needs to be able to do that to kind of relax, de-stress, things like that. So I think that making sure that you definitely work that in as much as you possibly can is a really good thing to do coming into law school. I want to thank, all the staff, Ben, Lori, Dean Mangione, thank you for, coming on and offering up your great words. All of the ambassadors, haven't seen you in a while, but it's great to see your faces. And then thanks to everybody for asking questions and, you know, driving the conversation along. Can't wait to see you all in the fall.
Yep. Thanks everybody for attending. Stay tuned for future events. We've got more opportunities with our current student ambassadors as well as with our dean, talking about the action plan and all of that. So you will be hearing from us in the next couple weeks, and we hope you enjoy your summer.
Hey guys, thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.